The reflection late at night. Sarah was getting ready for bed when she passed by her bedroom mirror. She stopped for a moment to check her hair, but as she did, she noticed something odd. The reflection of her room in the mirror seemed off. Everything looked blurry, as if the mirror was foggy. She rubbed the glass with her sleeve, but when she looked again, the reflection of her bed had moved. She froze. Her reflection was now sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her. Sarah turned around quickly. Her bed was empty. Her heart raced. She turned back to the mirror, and there was the reflection, now standing up and slowly walking towards her. She backed away, but it was too late. The reflection smiled, a twisted, unnatural grin. 2. The strangers in the woods, a group of friends, went camping deep in the forest. They made a campfire, told jokes, and shared stories. But as the night fell and the fire burned lower, they began to feel uneasy. Something was off. Like eyes were watching them. They dismissed it as their imagination, but the feeling didn't fade. Then they heard footsteps, heavy, slow, almost deliberate. They looked into the darkness, but there was nothing there. The noise stopped. They laughed nervously, assuming it was an animal. But then the footsteps came again, closer, much closer this time. Suddenly, one of the friends screamed. Standing just outside the firelight were figures, tall and unnaturally thin, with pale faces and hollow eyes. They didn't speak, just stared at the group. The friends panicked, grabbed their things, and ran, only to find the figures were already ahead of them, blocking their path back to the car. 3. The old woman's warning. It was late at night when Mark and his girlfriend Lucy pulled up to a small roadside inn. They had been driving for hours, and the place seemed like the perfect stop. As they checked in, the innkeeper, an old woman with a creaky voice, warned them not to venture out after dark. "There are things out there in the woods," she said cryptically. "Things that don't come out in the light." They laughed it off, but after dinner, they decided to take a walk. The air was thick, the trees casting long shadows under the moonlight. As they wandered, Lucy pointed to a figure in the distance, an old man standing motionless in the woods. But when Mark turned to look, the figure was gone. They both turned back to the inn, only to find the door shut and locked, as if they hadn't even been inside. They knocked, but no one answered. Then, from the upstairs window, they saw the same old woman, but she wasn't smiling anymore. The haunted cellar. Lena had just moved into her new house. It was a charming, older building, perfect for her and her young daughter, Emily. As Lena was unpacking in the basement, she stumbled upon a hidden door behind some old crates. Curious, she opened it and found a steep staircase leading down into a dark, musty cellar. Terrified, she rushed back upstairs and locked the cellar door. That night, as Lena and Emily slept, the sound of footsteps echoed from beneath the house. The cellar door was wide open, and Emily stood at the top of the stairs, staring down into the dark. 5. The ticking clock. Tom was a night owl, often staying up late to work on his projects. One evening, as the clock struck midnight, he heard a strange ticking sound coming from his living room. At first he thought it was just his clock, but then he realized it was much louder than usual. The sound seemed to be coming from all around him. He got up to investigate, but as he walked through the house, the ticking grew louder, more frantic. Finally, he opened a closet, and inside, there was an old grandfather clock, its hands spinning wildly. Suddenly, the clock stopped, dead silent. Tom took a step back in confusion, but the silence was broken by the soft whisper of a voice. "You're late." The unseen. Hand Alice lived alone in a small apartment. One night she was getting ready to sleep when she felt a strange sensation, a feeling like someone was standing behind her, watching her. She turned, but no one was there. She shook it off, but the sensation lingered, growing stronger. Then, the bed shifted beneath her as though someone had just climbed in beside her. Alice froze. She could feel the weight of someone on the mattress, but when she turned, the space next to her was empty. The sensation followed her all night. When she awoke, her bed was covered in strange, deep handprints, as if someone had grabbed her and held her tightly while she slept. 7. The phone call. Rachel received a call late one evening. It was from her friend Claire, or so she thought. "Hey, it's Claire," the voice said, sounding faint and distant. "I need you to come over." "Something's wrong." Rachel, confused, asked where Claire was, but the voice on the other end answered, "I'm right behind you." Rachel spun around, heart pounding, but the room was empty. The phone line clicked, and then the voice came again. Don't look back. 8. The silent neighbors Megan moved into an apartment building that seemed perfect, except for one odd thing. Her neighbors never made a sound. No footsteps, no voices, no signs of life from the units around her. Curious, Megan decided to visit them, knocking on the door of the unit next door. There was no answer. She knocked again, but this time the door creaked open slightly. Hesitant, she stepped inside. The place was spotless, almost too perfect, as if frozen in time. And then she saw it, the family, sitting motionless at the dinner table. Their faces were pale, eyes glazed over.